Hola mujeres, Happy New Year 2026. Y pues comenzamos el año muy bold and proud por aquí. In today's episode, I am going to be chatting, so teniendo una conversación con mi co-host, comadre, and bestie Rosibel about her personal decision to transition from being a corporate girly to a family business girly, así mismo como lo oyen. Hoy le voy a hacer una entrevista a Rosi para entender un poquito más sobre los pasos que ella tomó to make the decision to actually transition from corporate life to her family business. Because I know it was very difficult for her and it actually took her a while to actually make the decision. So I do have a couple of questions for her. So be ready to chat just to listen to this chat and get educated because you're going to listen to Rosibel's experience from going to, from corporate to family business. So, Rosi, are you ready?
Yes, hola mujeres. Thank you so much for this, Jatnna.
Claro que sí. And la razón por qué we're doing this today is because we thought it was important. Porque I know you guys, I guess the like OG girls que escuchan nuestro podcast, saben que in the past we have had guests en nuestro podcast que son personas que han hecho esto ya, que han estado en corporate roles and have had made the transition. Pero nunca nos imaginábamos que nuestra propia co-host, right, like my own bestie and my own comadre, Rosi, was actually going to make that decision as well. So I am super proud of her, and I'm super excited that we're actually interviewing her so she can talk about her own experience about this. So, mi primera pregunta para ti, Rosi. What initially drew you to working in a corporate environment? Before we even go to talk about the family business and why you made the transition, I just want to know, like, ¿por qué tú quisiste trabajar en el corporate world when you know that your family has a business and when you grew up in a business, in a family business?
Let's start with a little bit of external factors, which is validation. A lot of times, growing up in a family business, people or even yourself, like I felt like, okay, well, I'm put in this position because I'm the daughter, I'm the oldest, so I'm expected to be in this position. But does that really make me capable? So growing up, like you're not, as you guys have heard in other episodes, and anyone that knows me, confidence has always been a weakness of mine, which is, slowly turning into strength. But it was always of, hey, am I capable of getting a job outside of here? And I actually remember my dad. There were only two companies I wouldn't even apply for outside of the family business, and they were also, of course, bigger businesses, but family owned. And he would say a lot of people send their kids to work outside the company and then they come back. And it's because they want them to learn, they want them to grow, they want them to mature, and they also want them to value what they have here in the family business. So that's one part also of me just like, well, my just knowing that I can do something more, because I would get comments. I wouldn't be a cashier. The family business is a supermarket on the side, real estate, but I would get comments like, it must be nice to work here instead of at Burger King, or like, it was always you would never do more than this type of thing, like, or you're always going to be under your parents' wings. Also, like that would be from family or friends. Like, and then also my parents making sure I went up and got at least my master's degree. They're like, well, we paid for your education, and we want to make sure that you have a better lifestyle than we did. There's this type of business is too much of a, in Spanish, esclavitud. Like, we don't want you to be a slave of this business. And it's funny, like I have a cousin that he's making fun of me now saying, ¿Cómo va a ser? Volviste para la esclavitud. He's like, oh, so now you're back to being a slave? And it's like, like, so all these, I could go on forever, but the main thing was my parents saying that they wanted a better lifestyle for me than having to work in the family business. So I'll leave it there because you'll keep hearing a little bit more of the journey.
Okay, okay, good to know. So I guess what I'm aside from uh everything else that you mentioned, que tu papá te dijeron que they kind of wanted you to have a better life. I what I'm hearing also from your perspective is that you also wanted to prove yourself and other people that you could actually do other things other than just being like under your parents' wings type of thing,
Right.
essentially.
Hmm.
Okay, I mean I get that respect.
Yeah, and I was super blessed too that the job that I got was, well, I think I can talk a little bit more about later, but it was I had to do a lot with public speaking. So, they were like, what, you get on stage and you're talking to people? So it actually helped me grow in that way. Also, it was something I had in me because I've always, it's like if I enjoy what I'm talking about, it's like what I learned from a public speaking coach. She said, if you're interested, you're interesting. So it was really good to see that, like, hey, because working in a family business, like I would go on when once we had the restaurant, which was my main role prior to going to corporate, was helping out with a family restaurant. I would go on set. I got to go on set twice for the news, and then they also would come to the restaurant, or um, or just news media, like just they would just go and do short recordings, or I would go sometimes to a radio station, do a talk show. So like these little things that I would do um, prior to corporate, but it was things that I'm like, hey, like I didn't know I had that inside of me because it was like, oh, okay, I've done those things, but they're little. And it wasn't until that I really noticed that it wasn't little things that I was doing in the family business until I was going over the job description of the job that I got as the first corporate job with he was our PR guy for the restaurant at that time. And he said, everything that's on this job description you have done, you're just going to do it at a bigger scale. So he just wrote out to me, he's like, yeah, this bullet line, this is what you have done here at the restaurant or the supermarket. So it was also just to show me that I was capable of getting the corporate job, but also that if I wanted to just keep on pursuing the family business, I could also be capable of doing that. But again, my parents wanted me to do something different, and they always said, well, we're going to sell this business, we don't want this for you and your brother, and here we are now.
So this is a perfect segue to the next question because you did mention a little bit about. I know tú tírate tu boronita de ciertas cosas about your role in corporate, but can you tell us a little bit about what that was? Like, what was it that you did when you were in corporate? And again, most of the people que sabe acerca de nosotras y sabe que we work together. We used to work together for the same company. In fact, we worked for the same division for a while until like it was, we were separated. Our departments were separated. But can you talk about what that was? Like, what is it that you used to do? Now that obviously you're not longer with the company.
So for me, when I first started corporate, it was working with independent business owners. So I was working with business owners. So to me, it was like perfect. Like here in the family business, I would say what made me unique was the customer service of thinking of the others. How can I make them feel special? Knowing them by their name, understanding what's most important to them or their favorite item. So once I went to corporate, it was like those soft skills would come so easy to me. Like, yes, it was hard to learn all the business side and of the corporation, but it was really fulfilling to work with people that I would be able to connect with them, because it's like, in a sense, I would see my parents, because I started working with people that were building their businesses for 20 years plus. And I remember thinking, like, when am I going to teach these people? Like, they know so much more than me. And then, of course, as I got more into the weeds, I'm like, oh, now I understand. It's all about helping them and understanding how to make their life easier. And it was like, that was kind of like the same thing I was doing. Like, my main role was always trying to see how I can make my parents' life easier or the customer's life easier and also the employee's life easier. So there, like that is really what helped me grow up. Like, hey, those are soft skills and superpowers that I have, and why not elaborate them? So it was, I really got um, to be able to build strong relationships with some of the business owners I was working with, and it was really fulfilling to know that once I communicated to a couple of powerful women that I used to work with, that would provide services for them. It was like just to hear the words they said to me, and I was like, wow, I really was doing a great job. So, and and of course, as I mentioned a little bit of the public speaking, just being able to go on stage, like you'll see me and people are like, I'm the shy person. I'm really not good at the whole small talk, but I could talk to hours to, our business owners. And it was like true conversations, real, and it was always about growth. It was never about gossip. It was like real business talk, and it was just because of that passion. And it was also the same thing once I got on stage. Like some of them would say, like, "Was that you up there? Like, who were you up there? Like, you just transformed." And I'm like, "Well, I think it's the adrenaline, and a lot of people on our team would get that. Like on stage, it would be different than how they would be off stage." But it was really good to see of that was capable, that was in me. So really I was able to a lot, of course, gain a lot of confidence. And I still have work to do with the confidence, but it really did help me understand more of who I am and believing in myself.
I love
Let me
that.
know
Look
you
at
want to
you.
know more of things that we have talked about in the past, but I'll keep
You're
it there.
you're doing great. You're doing great. So the next question, I think I'm gonna rephrase it a little bit because it does say, well, was there a specific moment of or realization that made you consider leaving? But what I want to ask is, what was that moment? Like, when was that moment of realization that made you consider leaving?
Consider, I would say family. Just knowing, so I think well, we're in 2026 now, January, but this past year, 2025, there was a lot of different family events that happened, such as in health, such as in new businesses, such as in um, school changes for my son. So like just different things that I would want to be able to support more, but I just couldn't. And it's like I always saw myself leaving corporate to own my own business. Like Jatnna always knows, like, oh, I'm gonna like I have invested so much money in courses because I'm like I have that syndrome of I'll see someone selling a course. I'm like, oh, I see myself living that life, so I'm gonna purchase this course. Or also because it would be, well, once I leave corporate, it's because I'm gonna move either to Florida or to Dominican Republic, so I gotta get you know a side hustle to be able to do that once I move out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Um, but it was so that was always like in the back of my mind, like, oh, plan B if I were to ever move. But then in 2025, after all those different events, it was like I really needed to reevaluate what's important in life. And it came down to family. It was just like, um, and I would be like, I would think in my head, if I was not doing the corporate, it would be a lot easier for me to do all these other things with the family.
Hmm, that makes sense because obviously we all know that the corporate life, is not necessarily for everyone. It's a 9 to 5. You know how everyone says like it's a 9 to 5. It's more than 9 to 5 because obviously like you do have to work weekends or whatever it may be, right? Depending on what role you have. So it's more than just. There's really not a lot of flexibility per se. So right, it makes sense that
Yeah.
you would want to.
And we're blessed at the company as well that I used to when you work at. We do
Yeah.
have the flexibility and all that, but to what extent? And to what extent that we actually don't feel guilty for for
Taking.
having to leave early, or oh, I'm going to work from home, and all these type of things. And it's also
Mhm.
like the mentally, you're like, like your mind starts to be divided in two things, and that's was to the point that I got. I'm like, I feel like I'm at in two places at once, and I can't do that because even though I'm physically here,
Your mind is somewhere
mine's over
else.
there, or vice versa. So it's
Yeah.
like it, yeah. That
Hmm.
was like when I'll I'll keep going later on, but
Hmm.
but to there, it was definitely in year 2025. Like I would say, like mid 2025, that was like okay. And then I think you're gonna ask me a question later on about
How
when I
long? How?
finally made the decision. So I'll save
Yeah.
that for
So,
later.
yeah. So I do want to know because I know it took you a while because we did talk
Yeah,
about this. I want to say you and I have like on and off, right? Like we had this conversation like through 2020, throughout 2025. Like,
yeah,
yeah, it was like pretty much like the entire year. So like, do you want to share with us like how long
yeah.
did it actually take you to make
So
the decision?
so I remember, I don't know when I think I told you like, oh yeah, once the kids start school and you're like, what you gonna do? And I was like, wait a minute, I have all this debt to pay off, and I need to replace my income. So last year I remember, um,
It was like around this time last year
in
that like
January.
yeah, like we started. It was not like as I don't think you were as focused about it, but you
Yeah,
started to like think about it
yeah.
around this time, and
Hmm.
then that's when you like started to think about it more and more and more, like, and then and then
Oh
you
yes,
finally.
because that's when I started the side hustle of the tax business. And then it was because I'm like, well, I need to prepare myself. What am I gonna do? And tax season started. I was like, well,
I
but
have a
it
good
wasn't
memory.
like you do. I was but I wasn't for sure. Like, of course, I'm like, I'm not gonna replace my income doing taxes,
Yes,
of
yes.
course. Like people, that takes a while. But to me, it was also how can I come back to the family business without being a financial burden? Like that's something else that like is it took me let me go I'll go back to how long it took me, but it wasn't how you said I started talking about it in January. It wasn't until like December was when I noticed that what my value was of coming back to the family business full time. Like I honestly thought that I had to come back to the transition full time to the family business because I can't say come back because I never left. Like
Yes, yes. I was
anyone
gonna
that
say
knows
that.
me,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
would still
You've
come
been
here at
working.
nighttime because
Yes.
my mom would, take care of the kids, pick them up. So I felt like I owed her helping at the store for the time taken away to support me to work my corporate job, such as picking up my kids, cooking for us, um, etc. So like when I would travel, so toda esa cosa, like so I would come on Sundays. Like Jack, like I know there's another question later on, but I would, spend a majority chunk of my Sundays here at the family business because, I can't do that Monday to Friday. And some nights also. The nights eliminated a lot more after the pandemic came. But when I started my first year at corporate, every day I would leave the office 5 p.m. That was before, we had a lot more flexibility. Now that the norm was Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I would leave there and I would come to the supermarket and my kids would be at the supermarket and my mom would have cooked for us and I would eat there. And since my parents would support me with picking up my kids, keeping them at the store, and cooking for me and my husband and my kids. Like, well, I'm going to stay here, and I would do paperwork, like all these admin stuff that I've always done, like that I can continue doing from home without physically being here, like such as the whole. Basically, what I stopped doing was daily operations because, of course, I physically couldn't be here. Um,
That was your way of
Physically.
still
But
contributing
yes,
to
I
the
would
family
I would still
business.
contribute, not as much obviously, but I was
But you
still
still did
I
though.
was still around.
Yes,
It
yes,
wasn't
yes.
like, oh, I started a corporate job and you never see me here again.
Yeah,
No.
yeah,
And
yeah.
also being the daughter and the oldest, like there's responsibilities that come with that you just can't escape.
100%.
So, and let me go back to that. I told you that I would be squirrel. I told you I'm like I just glanced at the questions because I didn't want to prepare because then I'm going to overthink it. But so yeah, January, but then I remember summertime came. I'm like, oh my, so in February, um, late February, my nephew got sick, and then early March, that first week of March, my parents left to the Dominican Republic, and my dad was able to acquire his dream farm. Like his dream is always to, okay, retire here from the US and go back to live in Dominican Republic, but he wanted to have his farm. So it was such a emotional and physical stress. Like it was such a good thing that was happening for my dad. And I would say my mom now because she finally bought in. Like she was like, no, I don't want that now, living their best life in the R part-time because they're still here. Right now they're in the R, but they still spend time here in Michigan. But then my nephew was hospitalized for 2 months. And so basically, my brother, he did leave corporate and came full time to the family business back in 2020. So he's been doing that now for 5 years. But it was like I would come in the morning because my brother, like he couldn't come. Like it was like my nephew is because if he wasn't at the hospital, he also had like another daughter to take care of. So they were taking turns. So not to go on too much about that, but you're asking like what helped me make the decision. It was like I felt like so many different life events. But that was when I was like, oh my gosh, like if I was not in corporate, I could fully support my brother and my parents here. But I have this other responsibility that I cannot, you know, fail at. So I
Yeah.
was like, I would go and I drop off my kids, stop by the store, show face, be in the office, and then get out, and then I would have to get the kids. So that's another thing getting early. So it was that like when I say family and school, it was just like all of that. And then um, came summertime. I'm like, okay. So then came summer, and I'm like, okay, well, school, not kids. I don't have to leave early. But I mean, but my parents were only gone for like 30 days, so there wasn't that many days I would have to leave work earlier or have to find someone, or you know how it goes. But then in the summertime, I'm like, okay, my parents are going to be going back to the Dominican Republic a lot more often now that they have the farm. And I remember emailing our accountant and I'm like, hey, I wonder how you did your bookkeeping company. How can I'm like, I told him like, this is how much I make at corporate. And how can I need to replace my income. And school is starting again and my parents will be traveling more. And my nephew's still not 100%. I really don't want to go through everything that I went through in the winter time, like and all of this. And then he comes to me a couple of weeks later. He's like, "Well, you're serious about leaving corporate? Like, um, you could come also join me." And I automatically said yes. I was like, "Well, I'm honored because I'm not even in the company. I didn't go to school for that." He said, "Well, we've been working together for years. You'll be able to learn it quickly." And then also during the summer, my brother posted the business for sale. And it was, there was a
Yeah.
negotiation going on. And the lady, I remember I stopped by for I was during lunchtime that they were meeting in one of their meetings. It was with the realtor, the potential buyer, my brother, my dad. And I stopped by quickly, like they had started the meeting, and I left before the meeting ended because it was my lunchtime for corporate. And the realtor, well, the lady asked me, like, "Oh, well, why aren't you guys keeping it?" And I was like, "Well, that's a complicated answer." And then the next day, the realtor comes back and he's like, the conversation, it came up again, and I just started crying, like just crying, like I got really emotional. My brother was like, "Man, when I saw you, I understand like how much this business means to you." And then my son, he's 12, and he's involved. Like my brother tells me he's a mini me. I'm like, what's up with this kid? Like everything that because the age that I started at working at the family business is my son's age, and it's like everything. Like
I
this
remember,
summer,
I remember Max saying that he was going to take over the business when he
yes,
was older.
he told my parents this summer. He's like, "How old do I need to be to buy you guys a business? Don't sell it."
Yes.
And my dad's like 18. He's like, "Okay, well, wait until I'm 18. I'll buy the business from you guys." And for you guys that don't know the business, like it's not this beautiful, grandiose business. It's a very small supermarket. We're out in the hood. It's an old building, but it's all the values and I guess the word is legacy and it's not about the money because people will be like people would think like, oh, you guys gonna grow, you guys gonna open a second store, like, oh, you guys gonna making a lot of money, and it's like, nope, none of that. I wish it would be for girls that I'm gonna fully go back. What is for other things is being able to honor their parents while they're alive, keeping on that legacy. And it shows like if my parents built something, like why not take the chance? Like my dad told my brother and I, like give this a shot at least 5 years and try to keep investing in real estate. And then maybe you guys just fully focus on that and then sell the store. But give this a try and keep growing real estate. So to keep going, this, I mean, you guys, this, I feel this is long because it's legit. This is everything that was going on to finally make the decision. So then came October. My parents were leaving October 9th to the Dominican Republic again. I mean, we went in the summertime, we saw the farm, my parents were there, but it was a summertime, so it wasn't as complicated with kids in school. But then October comes and my kids are in school again. I'm like, and my dad's like, okay, well, we're not going to sell the business. It's not going to be able to be sold for, what we're expecting. And we feel that you guys could do this, but Rosie would need to support Eddie. Eddie's my brother. I'm like, okay. And he told me, well, before I leave to DR, you need to let me know it's a yes or a no that you will transition full time. And I'm like, okay. And then that was when I finally had to say a yes or a no. It wasn't just a maybe. It wasn't like I need to prepare or I need to have this um all figured out or even succession plan. Like I wanted succession planning and replacing my income, like all this organized, responsible person. And then when I told him yes, I was like, okay, well then when is it I'm gonna like quit corporate? So in October, that's when the anxiety came in. It was, and I remember
This is the part because we're a lot of the things that I'm going to ask you, you're already covering here.
okay.
So this is the part where you talk about your fears or doubts that you had to
Okay.
work through. So talk about that.
So it was just like, okay, well, I don't know if this is gonna go well for me. I don't know if this is what really gonna be good for my family. Like, like my husband has always told me like, well, no, the whole corporate, like, but then it's like, but what is the backup plan? Like, well, he would say that like to move out of state or out of the country. Um, and also for the kids, like the kids would be like, my daughter thought I wasn't gonna be able to buy her anything anymore. She's like, but if you don't work hard, how are you gonna make money to buy me the
Oh,
things that I want? And they also like the products of the company, that I used to work for. And she didn't like it when I traveled, but they liked the perks of like, we got perks. So and then it was I was like, well, I'm not gonna be making the same amount of money, and what if it's a financial burden, like this whole pressure. But then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna start paying off debt, and I paid off all debts, like all the loans and like school loans, and I even have a 401k loan and credit cards. So now it's just mortgage loan, which that's hopefully start working on it. But then it was that like, okay, financially, if I don't have that stress of having all these additional monthly payments, then I can come up with like, okay, this is what I need to, the amount. And then it was the date. So from October till December, My anxiety, I would say my cortisol was to the roof. That after I told my boss, like right before the holidays, I lost like 8 pounds. Like and during that holiday break without doing anything different. And it was like my sleep coach and my acupuncture lady was like, don't no le busque la vuelta, yeah. It's don't go around it. It's because your cortisol was high. Like you were really like your mind made up a decision, but your body had not released it. So you were holding in all of that.
Your body was fighting it.
Yes. And it was fighting it so much that I was so there's a really big annual work trip that our entire team goes to in November. And when I told my dad in October, I was like, okay, so am I going to give my 2 weeks now in October and not commit to that trip in November? Or am I going to do it after the trip? Well, I wasn't even able to go to the trip because my body was like, nope, you're not doing this. And it gave me this really nasty ear infection. And it was my fourth ear infection of the year, which talking about what led me to do this was that I was just so stressed in 2025 with all the different things I told you that, the family had to go through, that I got like boils, like those, it's a type of skin infection, the ear infections. I would Thank God I've only had like one little sniffle in 2026. I mean, we're in January right now, but but last year in January, I was super sick. Like I got super sick and every month I had something different. It's like if I would get near my immune system was so low that if I would get near someone that was sick with something, I would get it. Like every month or all the time I was sick in 2025. Like and it was like and it was multiple people would tell me all those infections that you're getting, skin, like those boils, your ear, and other stuff is because is related to stress. And I never really believed it, but then I I became to believe it. Like when once November came, it was like my acupuncture lady and my sleep coach told me, like, they're like, is your body talking to you? And I'm like, what do you mean my body talking to me? So yeah, and then finally made a decision. I would say, oh, it'll be in January of 2026, like, right beginning of the year. I finished the year and finished all my end of year responsibilities. But then I remember going into work in on December. It was the day right after our Christmas party, which was also the day that we had our corporate. Well, the Christmas party at nighttime was for the family business, and then during the day was the Christmas program for the corporate job. And during the corporate Christmas program, the second generation owner, he said, the meeting about Christmas and what it is, and it's about honoring people that you love. And then it was like it stuck to me of like being able to honor my parents and also another time that um working at corporate I would listen to is like, why should the second generation stay in the business? So every time I heard that in the corporate, that is like, oh my gosh, they're talking to me. But anyways, I'm going to squirrel. So that day, Christmas program in corporate, and then that night when my dad's saying like, oh, and soon and next year that knowing that the kids will be working together and this and that. And then it was just like those two things that happened that day. The next day, I was talking to my coworker and she was telling me of how our boss was not going to be there until after the holidays, and something just got into me, and all of that just came to me. I'm like, you know what? I never knew when the day was. I knew I had to do it, but I had not picked an exact date. And I just went up to my boss and I asked him if he had a couple minutes and just did it. Cried my eyes out. I was crying a lot. I cried. It was really emotional, but yeah, I hope that wasn't too long for
No,
you
girl.
listeners. But I could keep going. There was other stuff, but I feel like those were the main and big chunks of like, as you can see that if you're going through making a decision, like your body will start telling you and life also. So you're going through life things and you're like, oh my gosh, like I can't keep doing all of this at once. Then if you don't listen to your mind, then your body will start telling you. And that's
Mhm.
the point. that I got to that. It took my body to really start talking to me in order to finally make the decision.
So the next question right now, because I know it hasn't been as long, but can you talk about one, how has it been working with your family? Different than obviously working in a corporate setting, because I know it's different. And then what boundaries, if any, did you have to set with your family when transitioning into working with them?
So it's definitely more work, more responsibilities. And also for me, just expectation. Like I have a lot higher expectation. It's like I need to really. I would always beat myself up. Like, oh, I am. If I were really smart, I would have taken my parents' business to the next level. But then now it's like, you know what? I'm gonna be here in the trance, so I need to do it. So on that side, that's bigger difference. Like in corporate here, I mean, I wasn't in leadership. I was just an individual contributor. So it's like, okay, this is what we're assigned to do, and these are our annual goals for the corporation. But here, it's like I have to make it's like holistically. So and then that's when you have to put in the boundaries because si yo me llevo de todo lo que tengo que hacer, I would never go home. Like if I were to really want to do everything that I know that needs to be done in the family businesses, I would never go home.
Mhm.
So the main difference between the corporate here is like at corporate, you leave and you can stop thinking about it, or you leave for the weekend and you can stop thinking about it. But in family businesses, you never turn off. Like it's really hard to turn off. So that's when you gotta also the boundaries, which was win-win. Part of making the decision, it was like, okay, I want to be able to be there more for the family, my kids, but then I also need to make the time for that. How like what's not working in corporate, what can I do to make it work in the family business? Even though I know it'll be more work, more hours, but then I'll have to play around with it. So one of the things is that the boundary that my parents know and my brother is that I'll be having to get the kids every single day, like me, Monday through Friday. And if I can, I'll go home, make sure they eat, and then I'll come back and close. Or if my parents are back in town, then I could probably just stay home with them for the rest of the day. And then another thing was my husband and I have a home. Like my husband's here. I was proud of him. He already built his dream home where he's from in the homeland in the Dominican Republic, but we never really got to enjoy it that long. So I asked my parents, like, one of the things I'm going to ask for is you guys to cover for me in the summers, at least for a month, so I could go and spend there that time. So far, that has been it. Because, like Jatnna said, it hasn't been that long, but just looking into yes, it's taking care of others in the family, but then I also got to remember, like for my family, remember of the main why also, which is the kids that especially for my son, like I don't want him to grow up thinking that the only way he's valuable is always working, working, working. Because that's the way I grew up. It's like, oh, but the only way that I'm showing that I care and then I'm valuable is if I'm doing something. And I feel like he's going into that because he wants to be here all the time and he's always doing something. But yeah, so far that's it.
But also remember that you also have to take care of yourself because self care is
Yes.
important.
Yes. So that first week, I didn't come in right away. Like the first 2 weeks, I would just come in a couple hours. I would. So I have this new role, which is more of the finances, more of the bookkeeping, and that is like I just really just started that a couple of days ago. I didn't start right away because my first week I did acupuncture. I went to Florida, so that's a way of not going back right away. I remember my dad seeing me on Monday, the first Monday afterwards, and I was here, but I was on a phone call. I forgot what it was for. It was here for the business, and he's like, "Oh, so today's your first day?" And I was like, "Mm-hmm," but remember, I had said like I'm officially starting in February, which started earlier because they had to go to the R and my brother's in also out of town at the moment. So it's just me right now. But I did make sure of that. Like, okay, she's transitioning full time, but she's still gonna do all the other things that she was able to do, but just now during times that work better for me and the kids.
Okay. So I would like to ask you this because I know as the eldest daughters, obviously, and as Latinas, and because we always talk about this in like on our podcast, and we have episodes about this as well, like about like how to be like being successful, and especially because we have these like life goals that we want to accomplish, and because we want to make our parents proud because of everything they've done for us,
Yeah.
and now that you're no longer in corporate, right, because that's different for you, and you're now with your and your parents and family business, how has your definition of success changed since leaving corporate life? And maybe you don't have an answer right now at the moment because it just happened, and you're still going through the motions, and it's too sure, it hasn't been that long, and maybe you still have to kind of like, I guess, go through it and continue to work with your parents and just figure it out. But I don't know if you can give me an answer at the moment, but do you know at the
I
moment?
mean,
Like,
the first thing that comes to mind is it can't, I'm going to keep going back to the word family, like just knowing that if, the kids are sick or there's a snow day, like we just had so many snow days, I would get so stressed when the kids had snow days. I would have to drop them off at my parents or the house, or at the store, and then drive to work. And that was so stressful. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have to do that long commute. And I bring them to the store with me. So it's like, so that has been so far like the count your blessings type of things that to me that's of a success, and also being able to pick them up every day from school. Like I remember when I started corporate, I told one of the guys on our team, I'm like, I just want a job that I'm able to drop off my kids and pick them up at school. And he said, well, you're not gonna be able to do that here, which that was before COVID, because after COVID, like we had all that flexibility to do, not every
yeah.
time because there would be meetings scheduled during school pickup times, but still, there was a lot more times that, I would have the flexibility to do that even after COVID, like even more. So if you were able to work around your schedule, but not every single day. Or if I did it, I still felt guilty or the pressure because then you got to go back and still finish. And now it's like, okay, I don't have that pressure of going back because I got to go answer these emails or I got to attend the meeting. So it's like I feel a little bit more of a less of a pressure. It's like a different type of pressure, but again, that pressure, I can never turn it off because there's always going to be something going on in the family business. It's a supermarket which is open 8 to 7 p.m. So as long as it's open, I'm always trying to like looking at the camera or like, oh, what's this going on, or is this getting done, or um. And then the other part is my parents are getting even more and more elderly. So just knowing that I could be able, like during that first week, I would tell you, Jen, like, oh, how's it going? I'm like, I'm running errands with my dad, I'm running errands with my mom. So it's like, I wasn't able to do that before. So now it's like, I know that's going to be happening a lot more of them. They probably wanted me to help them with things, but, since I wasn't here physically, I couldn't do that for them. So far, like, that's what has been coming to mind. I have the flexibility to be there for family more than usual.
So
Like
para
if
ti,
emergencies come up.
basically at the moment, you would say that success is actually being able to have the flexibility and being able to spend more time with your family and do the things that you couldn't do when you were in corporate,
Right.
before. Okay.
Yeah.
And then last,
Let's
but
talk
not
a year from
least,
now.
yeah. I guess I'll have to ask you that a year from now. But last but not least, La última pregunta, because I know it's, now it's, I don't know how long we've been talking, but it's been great, right? Because like you've been giving us a lot of information about your experience. But like, what advice would you give someone considering leaving a corporate role for a family business or just to pursue something totally
Mhm.
different than what they're doing at the moment?
Number one, reach out to me. I'll be your number one cheerleader. Anyone that really talks to me, I'm always wanting to
You
know
can do it. You got this.
what they're good at. It's like I was like, oh God, like I just want to know what is it I'm good at so I could turn that into a business. And I'm always telling people, like, I even opened a little, like, what was that, 2 years ago in 2024, a side hustle coach Instagram. Because I'm like, I'm the believer that everyone should have a side hustle. Like, everyone needs to turn their passion into profits, their talent. And it's like, if you have that little thing going in your mind, start setting yourself up. Is I start preparing and start little. Like I feel like for me, it was like, guys, I even went to therapy to make this decision. I left that out. In the summertime, I went to therapy. And I was like, I just want signs and I just want God to be able to just tell me, yes, it's what you need to do. And then they were like, tell me, but you have all the answers right in front of you. What more do you want God to tell you? And it was just like, but it was just me. I was just like, well, I don't know. It was, the fear and the doubt. And it's just the fear and the doubt is always going to be there. Um, but if that's put into your mind, like I would ask Jana, like, Jana, will you ever do it? And that's not in her mind at all. Like she loves the corporate life. She's like, no, like this is what's for
Just,
me.
I
And
know
I would
what I
always
want.
feel weird. Like I would be like, man, but how come I feel? But it's because I always had that option. And someone at work would always tell me, like, Rosie, you're blessed. You have really two really good options. Whichever ones you choose, you're really good. And that's why it was so hard for me because it was like I am blessed either or, but then I had to follow my heart. So the advice there is always follow your heart. I'm not wearing it today, but Jana had gave me a little band that says follow your heart. And it's truly that, like, even though if it scares you, as long as you start preparing. I know a lot of people just do it like what is it called? Cold turkey, like they'll not prepare at all in finances or anything and just do it. I couldn't do that. So because I'm like, I have kids and even
It
though
would,
yes,
and honestly, we wouldn't recommend that either. So let's just say that
uh,
PSA.
yes. So just start preparing. Like I did do a little I'll stop calling it little, but side hustle on tax preparation, which doing individual tax returns, but then I'm also learning now to do for business because that's going to be my main thing of being a internal CFO as my brother calls me, and also QuickBooks called me, Intuit called me that the other day, but um, but so that was in a way like for me, I created something that how can I be valuable to the business. So it was preparation. So like when Jana said like it took you a while, but I felt like it was all preparation and it was like I had to go through everything mentally and physically and organization to finally do it because it is hard. Like you're leaving something that's secure, even though yeah, in corporate nowadays, unless you're a doctor and lawyer, but it's not there's always uncertainty, but still um how much you're always gonna get paid and etc. Like there's more of a routine here. I could say hey, yeah, tomorrow I'm gonna take the day off, but then something comes up and you gotta go in corporate. Like you're like, nope, like I got the day off. I'm not going to have someone take care of it. But when you are doing like yes, I know I work for my parents, but it's like also working for myself into some sense. It's like the level of responsibility is different. So that's why owning a business is not for everyone. But like I said, if you have that thought in your mind, if something keeps sparking, like start preparing for it. Um, and then what was the other question? Was it just the advice or
Yeah, yeah. What would you do?
okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, start. I would say preparation is key. Stay persistent. Write out your whys. Write out why, like why you want to do it. and then all the pros and cons, of course, so that you have clarity. Like I remember I would pray for clarity, like I just want clarity. And then through the journaling, through the preparation, and say, you know what? This is the clarity for now. So I would say with preparing, you will have that clarity also. Just knowing, again, write down your why. Then you'll be a lot easier to start preparing, and then the clarity will come with that. That I feel like that was my process. So yeah.
Perfect. Well, all right. So because this was a very long episode, but very good, we're gonna leave it at that. Thank you so much for sharing, Rosie. And I'm super proud of you for making that decision, because I know
Thank
this
you.
is this is very important to you and to your family. And I know
Yeah.
it was meant to be. So, mujeres, muchas gracias por tuning in, and listening to Rosie's experience about transitioning from the corporate world to her family business. Um, if you want to know more about, I guess, like if you want to send us topics that you want us to talk about, like either Rosie
Mhm.
or myself, or if you want us to just bring a guest that can talk about that specific topic, if Rosie and I do not have that experience, we're happy to do that. So just send us a DM or an email, and we're happy to find someone who can chat with us as usual. We're always doing that.
Yep.
We're super excited for 2026. We have a lot happening this year.
Yeah.
So stay
Speaking of side
tuned.
hustles, those volatiles
Exactly.
will be more bold this year.
Exactly. So stay tuned for those things that are coming, within the next month.
That's another plus. Now I have more mind space for those volatinas because man, like I had so much in 2025, I couldn't even post on Instagram.
So I see you're gonna be seeing a lot more posts from us, apparently, and you're gonna be seeing a lot more merch. So hint, hint, from us as well this year. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. Hasta la próxima.
Ciao.
Ciao.